All right. Welcome back, and we want to set the pace for our conversation this particular morning, talking about a report that was just recently released by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, a report that actually established that employment is not only imbalanced but skewed towards dominant ethnic communities within the counties, 10 tribes dominating over 80% of the job opportunities in the country, leaving the other communities to scramble for what is left. Of course, a lot that actually just categorized the tribes and the percentage that they account for in terms of the job opportunities that are there across the counties. And that is what we want to discuss this particular morning. But before we do that, I just want us to run you over this particular report that was filed by our very own Seth Olale, who attended the event where this report was unveiled, just to get a picture of how it looks like across the 47 devolved units.
The second audit report on diversity of county public service that coincided with the 10th anniversary of devolution revealed massive ethnic preference and favoritism in job recruitment in county governments.
Counties, that is the most.
The 200-page report reveals that the total workforce in counties is 184,876, with female employees dominating at 53%, while male employees accounting for 47% of the workforce. Employees with disabilities are 2,089, representing 1.14%. Nairobi County, which has a wage bill of about 1.2 billion shillings, has the highest number of staff at 13,513, representing 7.37%.
Diversity in terms of inclusion.
Kalenjin, Kikuyu, Luya and Luo lead 10 tribes that dominate employment opportunities in all the 47 counties with an 80% recruitment margin. 29 tribes make up for only 1% of job recruitment in devolved units.
And I want to take this opportunity.
The Kalenjin tribe lead by 15.83%, followed by Kikuyu that represent 15.77%. Luya and Luo ethnicities are placed third and fourth with an employment rate of 11.6% and 9.81% respectively. Marsabit County tops the list of compliant counties, with the Borana, the dominant community, representing 33.41% job enrollment. Lamu and Tana River counties are second and third on the log, with dominant tribes representing 33.92% and 37.72% respectively. Bomet County is the worst in terms of compliance, with the Kalenjin, the dominant community, representing 97% of staff employment. Out of its total 3,357 employees, 3,268 are Kalenjins, while Kisii come a distant second with a mere 26 employees.
What does it take for you to have 97% of one ethnic group in entire government? It is a deliberate impunity whereby you intentionally do what is wrong.
When you do not diversify, you make your county lose on the gains that they could get from experiences from people from different ethnic tribes.
Nairobi County, which has been ranked as the most diverse county since 2016, leads in counties with highest diversity in workplace, with 38 ethnic communities, with West Pokot placed as worst regressed county with a negative 42.35% decline in diversity. Only 13 out of 47 counties are compliant with the laid down employment and recruitment procedures, with a number of counties embracing ethnic diversification in job enrollment falling to 13 this year compared to 21 in 2016.
Maybe unconsciously we have gone on that trajectory And now we are making 2 steps forward and 3 backwards.
Political interference, budgetary constraints, favoritism, laxity by oversight organs, staff inheritance, lack of clear framework for county employment, and unprofessionalism are among factors contributing to employment non-compliance in the devolved units.
Other big issue that we found out is that, people feel that devolution is a gateway to protect the indigenous communities.
Kuna hoja inazua ya makabila na vyeo.
NCIC says next audit will focus on national government and national institutions, an exercise aimed at addressing the inequality in human resource distribution in the country.
Makofi kwa Marsabit County.
Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
All right. Thank you, Seth, for that report that sets the pace for our conversation this morning. We have Governor Mohamud Ali, the governor of Marsabit County, who actually you've had there is among the compliant counties. We have Danvas Makori, Commissioner NCIC, who will be giving us the depth of this particular revelation. And of course, we have Wakili Hilary Sigei, Senator for Bomet County. Wakili, your county also has been ranked there. You'll tell us how you receive the news of how you have fared as a county, in that particular ranking on the issue that the report was addressing. But just to understand the depth of this particular report, Danvas, it would be prudent to start with you. This actually coincided with that, the 10th anniversary of devolution. I don't know whether we are headed in the right direction. That I'd leave for the governors and the senator to respond to. But for you, I'd like you to just help us understand the significance of this report and what went into even, compiling it for us to understand how the outcome was arrived at.
Thanks, Afin. As rightly you said, it was very intentional for us to do 10 years of devolution, to give time to our devolved units to adjust and to see how they can fare, because we did this in 2016 and we know the story, the narrative they gave us, and we've recorded what they told us. So let us give it time. So we didn't mean to ruin the party for devolution. But as you can see, the report actually is quite sad, because in 2016, we had 21 counties which were compliant. So we say, let's give counties time, because in government things work very slow. My 2 gentlemen can tell you that government things are not very fast. They really, you are trying to push, but things are very slow. So say, let's give it time. We had measures, we'd agreed with most of the counties on what to do. So we're hoping now from 21 at least there will be maybe 35 and just a few remaining that we can progress as a country. That's unfortunately not true. Now, why this is important, just to give context before others comment, is because the history of our country. You see, I'm glad the good governor is here. They can tell you where they come from. For a long time, they didn't feel part of this country. Yeah, so we've marginalized by policy, by law, by legislation. A good 2/3 of our country was marginalized. In 2007 or 2008, when we had violence, one of the reasons we had violence and why this commission was created was to address long-term issues, structural issues of marginalization, of equality or inequality for that matter. Okay, because there's communities of people who do not feel part of this country, and that's why they had nothing to lose and they feel they could ban the country. They're not part of this country. Okay, so it had serious implication on where we are. So we have to ask our questions: who is a Kenyan? Okay, are we truly Kenyans? And this report shows that I don't think so, because we are still ethnic enclaves. We are a nation of 46 tribes, 46 nations in one nation. It's impossible to have that. So we need to decide: are we a country? Or we not? You talked about, and I'm glad you began that conversation about even the floods, because one of the issues is you see such issues is the structural inequalities over time. Because if you don't invest over time in certain places, then you'll have such issues that you see today. So we have regions whereby they were not invested because they used to be in those days, Safin, whoever takes power, whatever the community, they will benefit the region. Okay, that used to be the case.
It's the Mutuetu syndrome.
Yeah, syndrome. So meaning that I'll bring roads and everything to my place. Where he comes from, true story. The former late president Mwai Kibaki, when there's a minister of health,
and he was demoted in 1989. I don't know, Senator, you can remember that story. Then assistant minister is a gentleman called Bonaya Godana. So he invited the president, now the president, the minister of health, to Northwood for fundraising to build a school, a high school. Boy Kibaki asked him in Swahili, in his quintessential self, mpaka sehemu najenga mashule.
To mean we moved on.
Yeah, we moved on with this thing. They're building schools. Do you know what the system minister replied? He said, this is the first high school.
The first?
The first high school. How do you understand why this is important? Moved on.
Yeah, actually,
we are beginning in 1989. Now, Northwood is the size of Western and Nyanza combined, one constituency, he can tell you that. So, you see, now let's devolve that issue now to counties. You see why this is important is because even in counties where you have ethnic groups, you have the same issue whereby you have minorities which are marginalized in terms of development, they don't feel part of it, and it fuels conflict for a large part. If you go to the Baringos, the Gusena can tell you why the reason there's conflict even where the government is coming from. I was part of resolution of that conflict. It's because of how we share resources. So it's imperative that we actually address this issue. That's why we took this study, because at the end of the day, it affects not just peace, but also development in our country.
Yeah, true. And it paints a picture that shows us that we really have a long way to go.
Very, very long. We're going back. Instead of going forward as a country, 60 years of independence, 10 years of evolution, where we are in a better place. No, we're back to our ethnic cocoons. We're less Kenyans than we ought to be. We're less patriots. You see, if my loyalty is to my ethnic group, first of all, I am not a Kenyan. Actually, I'm undermining our constitution. Okay, I'm unpatriotic. If my loyalty is to my ethnic group to begin with, because that's exactly what we are seeing in this report. The loyalty is first to ethnic groups, then to the country. But you cannot have it that way. It's the other way. It's loyalty first to country, then wherever you come from. That's what it's supposed to be. Now we have the horses reverse, whereby now it's my ethnic group, it's me. And then I can think about the country later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Governor, just, you know, you were given the compliant badge. What does that look like exactly when you say that a county is compliant? What is it that is in your county that makes you meet that threshold?
Well, thank you very much. Before I answer that question, let me take up from where Daktari left by saying that, first of all, I'm very grateful to him. He's been with us for quite some time when we had our lowest moments as a county, where there were serious clashes, lives lost, you know, and Marsabit was no-go zone. He's always been with us, and thank God now that is something of the past, and we've moved on, and the situation has normalized. I want to thank the NCIC for that great job. Coming to this report, you're asking how it feels. It feels great to be ranked the best in the nation out of 47 counties. You know, it's not a mean achievement. And I pride this because of the collective work that we do with my team in the county. There are 3 employing organs in the county. The County Public Service Board, the County Assembly's Service Board, and the Office of the Governor. The Governor employs the county executive member committees, the CECs, the CEOs, and the members of County Public Service Board. So it all starts with that. And what I did, I made sure that all these 3 levels are representative of the county. When you look at my executive committee members, they come from you know, various communities, right? CEOs, the same. When you look at the County Public Service Board members, they come from different communities. The chairman, for example, is a Rendile, the vice chair is a Borana. The other members each come from different communities, from Gari community, from Burji community, from Gabra community, from Somali community. And I asked them to comply with the provisions of the law, the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and all other acts, the Employment Act, the Diversity Policy, the NCIC Act, and all those. And thank God they heeded my advice and they followed suit. And there we are, celebrating. Yeah.
Make it sound easy, but when we continue having this conversation, you'll realize that the politics side of it actually usually plays a very big role in how some of these decisions are made.
Yeah.
And Wakili, just to come to you, I mean, it's not a very good thing to look at statistics that tell us that 10 ethnic communities dominate over 80% of the job opportunities at the counties. 10 out of 46, you leave a good 36 ethnic communities scrambling for the remaining 20. What does this look like for you from where you sit?
Thank you. And Governor, I must applaud you. I was just going through the report and I've noticed that in your county, you've got 19 Kalenjin from the statistics that have been given.
Why did you have to just go and look at
because
that specific tribe?
When I got it yesterday, the first thing, of course, I did when I think I saw the ranking, and immediately, of course, my county was the worst performing. Then, it triggers your mind to at least get the statistics and understand. And the parameters of now measuring this performance is given because these are statistics based. These are numbers, and numbers originate from the counties themselves. So what Governor Ali availed for the NCIC to give this statistic is exactly what he has. And so it's actually this morning now when I said, let me get to know what are the numbers of my tribe, unfortunately, in his county.
I'm just curious why your tribe.
And I've gotten it's 19. So, Governor, hands up there.
Yeah,
I must appreciate it.
Thank you.
And it's a long story. Dr. Ari has given us the history of how skewed resources and their distribution in this country has been for a very long time. And when a report like this says we've gone from better to worst, 10 years down,
this baby has grown.
Devolution. Yeah. The baby has grown, but there is a retard because from 15 to 13, there is a reduction, meaning we've missed the point because when you look at what the Constitution regards with the importance of devolution, the objective of devolution, it was to decentralize services to the people. It didn't say, therefore, that once you are decentralizing these services to the grassroots level, you also deny the bigger picture, the Kenyan image in that particular decentralization process. And that is where we failed, because Article 176 does not say employ the locals because you are devolving services. So it is skewed distribution of resources, which is very unfortunate. That is a fact that we are all aware of. When you compare certain counties with others, there is a glaring difference in terms of the extent with which the government in pre-devolution and even post-devolution have been sharing resources. The other day when we were fighting about the revenue allocation of counties, the formula by the CRA was, it's one of those things that sometimes it baffles you to understand why is it that you are giving this county this much and this county this much, until when you look at that particular formula that they are using to understand that my county is entitled to get 7 billion and he will definitely be entitled to get a different amount. Now, that way is an effort that we are now trying to do what we call what? Affirmative action, so that we get to one level, because upon the sharing of revenue across all the counties, there is now the equalization fund, that he would get more than my county. And for the same reason that Makori was saying, we need to look at how do we share these resources to the counties. But then when you look at now the statistics from this report about the employment, we have miserably failed. That one, I must admit. And we have failed for a number of reasons. One, of course, is now the inability of the county governments to understand that the article of the Constitution that gives county governments resources at their level did not carry along with it the issue of you also localize employment. Because when you do it, you miss out on the main objective. You miss out on diversity. You miss out on equality. You miss out on the image of Kenya, which is so unfortunate. Because when you look at 97%, we told you that in Bomet County, 97% is a worst. It tells you we basically in the office converse in the local dialect. We basically in the office think along the same line because we come from the same environment. We share the same basics from road to the mindset, and in that way it affects entirely even the performance, because I operate from the village. I interact with the same people.
You've lived there, you've grown
nothing new at all. We fail in inclusivity, we fail in fairness, we fail in enhancing the diversity of the people who operate there. And yeah, it is that, it's not nice.
Yeah, it's not nice.
Not nice at all.
Yes. Danvers, where did the rain start beating us though? Because earlier we were talking about this on a light note, the Mtuwetu syndrome. Usually it even informs who you elect, because you say it's now our chance to eat, for lack of a better term. They eat and then the others are waiting and they say, now it's our turn.
To answer that, actually...
Will we ever think about each other's interests?
To answer that, let me... when we're doing this validation, we went to the counties again, because we got this data from them, and this was, okay, is this your data, is it accurate? To answer your question, we went to one of the counties in Nyanza, which I want to say, and they told us, listen, we were marginalized by the national government since independence, okay? We got nothing. Now that we've gotten some form of government, now it's our time. So it's your word. Now it's the way I was trying to see. You know, now it's, we had nothing for a long time.
Yeah.
So
why should we
think about us? What tribe and what they didn't think about us. Why should we think about them?
True.
Okay. Now, let me reference that to pivot to our history of our country very quickly. I'm not keen on blaming because it never helped, but it's a factual history. In the colonial era, seeds of divide and rule were planted. Okay, it is only when we were told you're reminded you're Borana and you're legit. You are very reminded. So it was very intentional. Okay, it was very, very intentional. The divide and rule. Then, to reinforce that, it is very important to understand that. To reinforce that, they gave us our national IDs. My good friend here, Wakili, if he was to pull his ID, we'll have something nowhere in the world has. Okay? It will tell you even his village and location, which has really nothing to, in terms of the origin. Yeah? Even some have the clan. You come, you have the clan. It tells you even the clan who call or talk about. The forms you filled into, the government forms. Government forms today is something. You have to fill which clan you come from, who call, what village. I mean, some of us, me, I was born and raised in Nairobi. I have no clue what clan I belong to. I have zero. You understand? But because it was reinforced, planted by the colonial government, because it wanted to tell you, you from this stay there. Don't come to our place, because they grabbed the most fertile places and said, you stay there. Now, to identify where you come from, Wakili Sige has to show exactly what village, his clan, his dad, his mother, and his location. Now, I can tell you probably wasn't even born there, but even today, my idea was not born where it says I was born, rather where I come from, I was born here, but it says I come from somewhere, which is not accurate. You understand? Now, fast forward, we had an opportunity to fix that malady as a nation, and to lay a foundation of nation building, of unity, of cohesion, which unfortunately wasn't the case, because now the few that took power realized, you know what, this policy actually can benefit us. Kenya is too big, the resource is too small, let's just share among ourselves. These fellas can stay in northeastern. You understand? We can't share this. So let's develop our place. The colonial government was very right. Let's focus in the highlands. Hivo. You understand? Now, so successive governments, we inherited it. Now, we've never really addressed it, and we've amplified it as a government. Now, fast forward, in the evolution we tried to remedy the situation, albeit slightly, by saying the County Government Act says that 70% of the positions in county government, it can be reserved for the local people, but 30% should go to the non-locals. We're trying to resolve that issue of resources, because in government it was especially in the early governments, whoever is president brings his whole people in government. You understand? So that's why these numbers will always be skewed. Now, that is where the rain started beating us. To answer your question, and we haven't, as a nation, have a moment of introspection a true introspection and ask the fundamental question, are we truly Kenyans? If I go to Marsabit as whatever ethnic group I belong to, do I feel welcome and at peace? If I go to Bomet, can I as a Kenyan apply for a job fair and square? And I'm given, regardless.
The competitive process.
Regardless, yeah. Can I go to Bomet and run for governor or senate? Can I go to Marsabit and run for that seat because I didn't come from there in quote, but I'm a Kenyan. You understand? So until you have that genuine discussion, it will be hard for us now to truly move forward as a country, more importantly, to develop together as a unit called Kenya.
I don't know how we will get there, though, because we have laws and even principles and policies that were designed to take us there, but we are not there yet. But just to get to you, Governor, also tell me, I know it was not as easy as you made it sound earlier. There's usually politics at play. Decisions such as those are made at very senior levels. I mean, how have you managed to really deal with the quest and the pressure to really serve the interest of our people? Governor, serve the interest of our people. We elected you. We want you to prioritize our people. How did you manage to quiet that noise?
Yeah, thank you very much. In the history of Marsabit County, you recall, I just mentioned even a few minutes ago and thanked Dr. for working with us when we had those tribal clashes. The conflict has been majorly because of resources, distribution of resources, be it human resource or otherwise. So for us to come out of that, we had to interrogate ourselves and seriously discuss, and we had to lay down some programs and policies so that we face head-on that discomfort within the county. We have 14 major communities in the county. And of course, there are other members of the citizens. They are in the CBD of Marsabit and Moyale and big towns. So we said, for us, so that to feel that no community feels left behind, feels discriminated, we have to ensure that resources are equitably distributed. And for these resources, it's not only human resource. When you look at my wards, we have 20 wards. The ward level development funds are equal. Initially, when we had a better resource, we began by distributing or allocating 70 million to every single ward, 20 in number. When the funding dropped, we reduced it to 50, and to every part of the county, the 20 wards. That way, every part.
So you did it equally?
Equally.
You reduced for other regions and.
Equally. All our programs give opportunity to everybody in our county. If it's our scholarship program, we say we require a certain number of marks, 300 if it's for girls, 320 if it's for boys, and it doesn't matter where that person comes from, so long as he has performed well and he deserves, he's unable to pay the fees. So we distribute. Equally, in this employment, which now has been assessed by the commission, as I narrated before, the board itself, is distributed evenly. And therefore, we sat and agreed the only way to ensure that the county is stable and we are able to develop is to make sure that every person around, as much as possible, is comfortable. No member of the county feels discriminated. Of course, we cannot achieve 100%, but we did our best. As Dr. was saying, historically, this country of ours, when the colonial government was in place, they had reserved, some places which are reserved were reserved for the white men, and of course Kenyans, other Kenyans, local Kenyans were kept away. But northern Kenya, specifically, Marsabit being one of them, suffered the brunt even after. You recall sessional paper number 10 of 1965, which said that resources in the country will not be, taken to unproductive areas. And the unproductive areas meant dry areas, such as Marsabit and others. But thank God, and I thank the great people of Kenya, through the constitutional review in 2010, it ushered in our new constitution, which gave us some opportunity to share the cake. Imagine if devolution was not entrenched in our constitution. Up to date, although we are saying the commission has revealed that people are not doing well and there's still a lot of disparity, a lot of discrimination, but sample maybe a community like El Molo, the smallest community in this country, and they come from Marsabit. They will never have had an opportunity to be employed if the counties were not there. Okay? Sample the water, the council, the smallest groups who are detailed in this report, all of them having got an opportunity. But if the situation was like before, we will not have an opportunity to give them a chance in our country.
In employment.
So it's the best thing that has happened in the history of our country.
But it has been a progressive journey. You acknowledge that things were a bit different.
Correct.
It's taken a lot of steps and strides.
That's right.
The county to get to where it is.
Yeah.
Senator, you are a lawyer, and we have a lot that we have done as a country to try and sort of address the ethnic biases and discrimination. We have the National Cohesion and Integration Act. We have articles in the Constitution, Article 27, that prohibits all forms of discrimination based on ethnicity. We have a lot that has been done aside from the legislation, policy-wise, and just to address this issue and make sure that we have the face of Kenya represented in all our institutions. But that is not the case. What is the missing link from your assessment? Did we bite more than we can chew in putting up these legal measures?
I don't think so. And it's true that we have, I would call sufficient legislation. In fact, I dare say we have over-legislated in Kenya. From the Constitution to every little bit of anything that has got some value, we have legislation in it. So even in this issue, there is sufficient law in place. All the way from the Constitution, the NCIC Act, the County Governments Act, the Employment Act, the Public Ethics Act, several policies which, if we were to say we are fully compliant, we wouldn't be where we are. And so it is, number one, not lack of legislation. That one, given, it is in place. It is not about lack of policy. That one, it is in place. So where did it start? And it's all about the leadership. If the leadership of a certain agency appreciates that the law is in place and the law is meant to guide me to comply by doing the right thing, we will not be where we are. Because I've just been asking myself the question about the ability of Governor Ali to comply. And when, on the one hand, we have statistics of from better to worst, he's not gone in that statistics, yet he's struggling as a county, for instance, from the history that he has given us and that which we know. It is all about the goodwill that, as a leader, you've put in office and you know that this is what I'm supposed to do. There is the legal framework in place. It all requires you to put in place systems and measures as a leader to comply. And the questions I was asking myself is, a number of these counties, other than East County, for instance, I probably would have a very comfort zone for Nairobi County to say it is almost compliant. Why? Because it is a cosmopolitan county. Nakuru, Narok, the same thing. But for him, it is a deliberate effort in Marsabit. It is a deliberate effort to comply. And that is now answering the first question. It is about leadership. Is it that from his county, there are no qualified residents of Marsabit to warrant him comply? I would say no, because they are there. And the numbers, of course, could fit into it. Number two, is it that it is because of the population quota? When we say Kalenjin and Kikuyu are dominant, are they the most populous? For instance, to say, in a group of 10, those who have applied for a particular job, 9 of them are Kales, or 5 Kalenjin, 5 Kikuyus, and therefore you will have no other to pick from the 10 which represent 2 tribes. It is also not the answer, because I'm very sure, despite the fact that there are many, there wouldn't be the majority to warrant only the 2 of them being in place. So it is a deliberate decision that one is doing to make sure that this is it.
Is it solely on the leader, though? Because in Kenya, we have this culture of some sort of entitlement.
When
we expect that we elect you, and then...
Yes, I was headed there. I was headed there. When governor says that he has got 3 agencies, the executive, the county assembly, and the public service board. Remember, he doesn't sit in all those boards. There are people who sit there. There are people who run the executive. There are those who run the county assembly, that's the speaker and his team, and the public service board. So it is a question of, do this team that is running this particular county government agency understand that they are required to comply with the law? Because there is outright non-compliance in all of them. So there is a laxity on the part of those who are running to make sure that they comply with the law. There is also a laxity on the part of those who seek to implement the law to call you out and say, look, you are in breach of this particular law and therefore you are supposed to comply. For instance, if the county government that is expected to oversight the governor in the executive is unable to talk, to speak, and to highlight, we will all be quiet. If the county public service board is unable to say, look, governor, you cannot send us names because you want to, pay back to your supporters, those who campaigned for you, those who funded you, we cannot employ. If they don't speak and they don't say, look, this is what the law expects us to do, and we want to make sure 30% is protected for the non-residents or the minority, and 70%, whatever is required is to be done, then the governor will always be saying, I need my people to be employed. And that will be it. So it is the laxity also that comes with those who are oversighting. It is also the interference from the political class. And if today you were to ask me, I actually haven't. Immediately when I got into office, the first thing I did was to ask myself, I'm supposed to oversight the governor. If every morning I call him and tell him, you know what, governor, I've got so-and-so, I want you to employ for me this, I've got so-and-so.
You cannot oversight.
I can't oversight. I can't.
It sort of like ties your
Yes, and so it goes down also to the leader, because if today I've got 10 people whom I've given Governor Barchok to employ for me, I would have no moral ground sometimes to challenge a number of decisions and call him out. Why? Because it could be in a department where my person has been employed. So I told myself, I'm not going to do this. Let him do his job. Let me do my job, so that we do what? We oversight and we perform the roles that the Constitution and the people of Bomet expects us to do. And so it is the laxity, it's the oversight entity, and of course a number of other things now, like in some non-cosmopolitan counties, a job is advertised. A few people would look at, how can I now go to Wajir, for instance, or they're from Bomet. So there is also that feeling of discomfort and insecurity on the part of someone coming completely from the outside to go and get into a place and
Kenyans
work
have
in
been
Lamu.
Wired to think.
They've been wired to so local. They get so localized, and that way it affects even their ability to discover and go out of their way and say, I want to be an employee of the county government of Lamu, and I come all the way from the far end of Bomet, Narok, and all that. And so there is that feeling. And when one is in place, because when you are in that environment, which is the question you had asked, am I comfortable when I'm employed in Marsabit County, for instance, and I'm a Kalenjin from Bomet, Chebunya, the far end? It is something that will either give me the urge to apply for that advertised job or not to. And in most cases, you would find people saying, no, let me just remain local because of that comfort in terms of my security, my exposure to areas of risk and all that. I would rather be home. Right. And so it's a factor of issues that affect across the board. A cocktail of all those, yes.
All right. I want us to sample a few comments from our viewers before we take this conversation forward. Remember, we invited your feedback on social media at Citizen TV Kenya, at Safin_Aching. The hashtag is Daybreak on the conversation we are having this particular morning. And there, Antiques Moran, you say in September, via Rigathi Gachagua, the government estimated that it needed about 10 billion to manage the anticipated El Nino effects. Were those funds disbursed, and what are they used for? We should normalize asking the hard questions instead of lamenting 24/7. Thank you for that. Mkufunzi HU said devolution aimed at improving service delivery, but instead fueled corruption as personal interests prevail. Kudos to Governor Mohamud Ali for promoting diversity by hiring people from various ethnic backgrounds. Inclusivity paves the way for unity and progress. We have Babu Michael K.E. The report by NCAC is very true and justifies the unfortunate comments about the shareholding aspect by DP. If the central government can be an example to ethnic balancing, then we are screwed. For example, the whole energy sector is dominated by Kalenjins. All right, we have Engineer Lazaro. Ethnicity being reported from the national government is a very bad example to the devolved government. In fact, people conducting business in mother tongue is in some well-known parastatals, ethnicity even killing morals of our defense forces. All right, we have Robert Lelimo. What if a country is made up of only one tribe, or let's say 97%, I think opportunities should go with qualifications and not tribe. You can't compare Nairobi and Bomet when it comes to ethnic balance. Sir Nixon Dungire, you say it's not only the G2G that's lacking transparency, but also management of disaster fund, as well as government's priorities. By now, Deputy President ought to be at the forefront in offering help to those submerged in floods. Okello Mwalimu, if all counties could have followed the footsteps of Nairobi, the scale of destruction caused by El Nino could have been minimal. It's unfortunate that some governors have either gone underground or relocated to safer grounds, thus abandoning their marooned bosses. All right. Bobo Tieno Wino, I wonder how prepared our counties are always before the floods of destruction, because the weatherman came calling by giving warnings long time before. Thank you, Bob Otieno, for that. Just sharing your thoughts on what we discussed earlier on the ongoing floods that continue to wreak havoc in our country. And we continue to just escalate this conversation on the ethnicity in the counties. We have in studio Governor Mohamud Ali. We have Danvas, he's the governor of Marsabit. We have Danvas Makoria, commissioner at NCAC, and lawyer Hilary Sigei, the senator of Bomet County. Danvas, you've had their feedback from, viewers. They are also concerned about the example that even the national government is setting. I mean, post this report being unveiled, what happens in terms of action points, or it's just telling us how we look like and then that's it? No,
there's certain action points. And actually, as a matter of fact, the guest of honor was the Speaker of Senate, because Senate, as Wakilia said, oversights the involved units. And I'm glad that a good senator is here, because I would like him, as he said, first of all, to oversight his not just his country, but collaborate. There's many committees in Senate. There's a standing committee on devolution, select committee. There's a committee on cohesion, which actually oversights us. And this report was shared with them because it will take action for Senate now to call counties to account, because actually that is their work. So this report actually goes to Senate, and it's upon them now to say, because as he started, the first check for counties actually is the county assembly. So they check the executive, the county service board. Now, that has failed because, actually, as a matter of fact, if you look at the counties, Senator, the county assembly service board are even worse than the executive ones. Wow. So how can you supposed to oversight me being breach of the law even worse than I am? So what are you going to tell me? You understand? So, so they failed. So the cost of action actually is that. Now, also we've recommended a number of set of action policy decisions, legislation to the counties that have something called the equity plan within the County Government Act that most county public service did not know. So we are helping them to implement that equity plan, because if I'm a chair of a public service board and the governor comes and says, hire my people, I just say, hey, this is our policy. By our policy, we ought to consider other ethnic groups. I'm sorry. So you hide, that's your shield. It shields you from political interference, because the biggest, actually, enemy And the biggest culprit and the biggest driver for this, what you see, is political interference. It's governors who, just like he was intentional, are intentional the other way, who actually say, you know what, Mimi, I'll care of my people. You understand? And also we understand the issue of it's more delicate of where counties have predominantly, overwhelmingly, or dominant community. But you see, the argument is, and I'm glad that we did that 2019 census. If you look at 2019 census, you realize that apart from maybe Wajir, majority of counties have a significant amount of other communities. Bomet County, where he comes, for example, I can tell you there's Maasais who live there because it borders Darok to the south. Okay, Nakuru on the east side of it. Okay, Nyamira to the other side, and there's significant influx of these communities. Why don't you do Bomet? If you go in that side, probably you go, when you go Shags surfing, probably use the Bomet route because it is the way to go to that side. It's a highway. You know, there's really no excuse. We all go, we all use it.
You can't escape it.
You can't escape it. You have to go through Bomet. You understand? But you know what the governor will tell you, because we go with Western. When one of the Western governors was saying, you know what, and we see this reality, well, you know, for us, you know, I look at, they have the Bunyores to think about, the Maragolis to think about, but then I said, you cannot have the cake and eat it. If you're Luya, you're Luya. You cannot break it down later and say, well, I'm Maragoli, I'm Bukusu, I am this, do I have to balance that? It's a reality. The same thing with some of the counties in Northeastern, whereby the clans are very significant and powerful. So yes, the governor will tell you have to balance between the Godia, the Burules, and so on and so forth. I understand that local reality, political reality, but the question is, as far as a country, you know, you need to go beyond, as you said, being a local thinker to a national thinker. Yeah, you understand? So as far as you're concerned, because if Marsabit can comply, and you know how far Marsabit is from Nairobi to the town, it's 585 kilometers. It is nowhere close to this place. You understand? It is quite far. And the tip of Moyale is 780-something kilometers, where Moyale is. So it's very remote, but yet they can actually lead the country. So you have no excuse, you who's around here. Machakos is not non-compliant.
Machakos County
is non-compliant. Why on earth?
That's true. Yes.
Majority of Nairobians live upper Mlolongo, Syokimau, and so on. Syokimau is in Machakos. People forget that. The moment you leave airport,
cosmopolitan.
It's cosmopolitan. Kiambu. I live in Kiambu, Safin.
Yes.
Kajiado. You know this. I mean, Governor. I mean, this. You have to be intentional not to comply to these laws, especially cosmopolitan counties, because I can understand Bomet can make an argument for it, but why is where I live in Kiambu. Why is it non-compliant? Majority of us live in these metropolitan areas. So we have to be intentional. That's why we invite the Senate, the AOG, that's the Office of the Auditor General. We've invited the ESCC because it's an issue of ethics here. It's just pure corruption and ethical. So that together now we can come together as agencies with the Senate leading, especially in oversight on counties, to say now we got to fix this and save our country. So there's action points that if you look at the report, I don't have time to go through all of them. There's action points recommended that say, you know what, we need to, we can remedy this situation by doing 1, 2, 3. But lastly but not leastly, but even as Kenyans, we need to, we are very hypocritical because I cannot say Governor X is employing his own people. Yet, for me, like I said earlier, my loyalty is to my own ethic. For me, if I'm a Kenyan, I'm a Kenyan first and foremost. We genuinely need to be introspective, individually speaking. We begin ourselves. Then we can hold our politicians accountable. Because, like you said, it's not easy for him. I was there. I know the challenges Israel in this county. It's not easy for a governor to say, or leaders of the county public sport to say, I'll do what is right. You understand? But they have those who, we've seen an example right here. So there's no excuse. You know, Senator, as long as somebody has done what is right, nobody has an excuse. You know, nobody has an excuse. But lastly, to finish by this saying, I don't, you know, the reason I don't murder or steal, okay, it's not because there's a punitive element to it. It's because it's immoral to do it. It's the right thing to do. It's wrong to murder. It's wrong to steal. It's wrong to lie. Therefore, I'll do what is right. I don't need to say, hey, let me not steal because in Kishikwa. You understand? Or I won't murder because no. It's just the right thing to do. So it's a moral thing to do. And I'm speaking out to governors and more importantly, to the chair of Public Service Board and Public Service Board, County Assembly Public Board, that it's a moral thing to do. Knowing the history of our country and the future we have to go, to do what is right and just do what is right, because accountability first begins with God, even if God with the people. It is God who gives this opportunity to lead and to a position. So for me, it is a moral and ethical thing to do what is right, because then blessings come, and then more importantly, you're able to redeem our country from the demon that has beguiled us for a long, long time, and save us so we can move forward from our evil and dark paths.
Governor, how have you benefited from the progress you've made to attain the inclusivity that we are talking about? You know, what is it that you'd say has been like the biggest gain or the biggest game changer for you as a county?
Good question. The biggest gain is that we are at peace, you know. I mentioned a few minutes ago, people were slaughtering each other, you know, stealing, driving away cattle from, you know, other communities and all this kind of thing, mushrooming of weapons and all this. It was unstable. Thank God now we are a stable, cohesive county. In fact, from 23rd of this month, which is Thursday, up to Saturday, we are going to celebrate our diversity. We have a cultural week at a place called Loyangalani. And I take this opportunity to invite all Kenyans and indeed everybody else to come and join us and witness what a cohesive county like Marsabit you know, has. We have very diverse cultures to showcase. 4 or 5 years, I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, the situation was different. But now, even at night, you can walk CBD of Marsabit very freely. So that is the biggest gain, stability and you know, feeling at ease with everybody, where members of every community is happy, right? So, and it gives me peace of mind, and it gives me time to work and focus on developmental issues. That is the biggest gain.
All right. For you, Senator, how would you, advise we go about managing the politics? Because it's one thing to actually want to do the right thing, like Danvers is suggesting.
Yes.
But having lived in Kenya and knowing how some of these things actually sometimes happen, you don't make those decisions alone.
Yes.
You actually exist in a certain context. So how do you manage the politics to be able to do the right thing as a leader?
One of the ways within which this can happen is what we've said, that Governor Ali did. It is a deliberate decision. When you are the head, when you are in charge, when you are the person who at the end of the day will be expected to answer to some of these things. I mean, we have Governor here responding to the fact that he's been ranked the top in the country, yet he comes from a far-flanked county within the city, not within the city, and those surrounding the city have not complied. So it is one of the things that we say, even as leaders, we have got to do that which is expected of us deliberately, because it is true. You actually deliberately fail to do it because you know the County Governments Act tells you it is actually unlawful, it is an offense not to make sure that you have got, you've complied with the law. That is, Section 65 is very clear in terms of what is it that the percentage of employees within the county government is supposed to be. So for you not to comply is an intentional omission on your part as the person in charge, as the CEO. So that is one of the things that we must encourage our leaders at whatever level, not only the county governments, even in other government institutions. Make it a deliberate decision to do that which the law expects you to do. Once you comply, the rest will roll out. It's sort of going to now be easily done by the rest, because we set examples. When the head does the right thing, the same thing will be done by your juniors, because they know that it is wrong not to do that which is expected of you. 2 is we need to sensitize our people. A number of, I believe our residents would not necessarily apply for an opportunity in Bomet County, in Machakos County, in Lamu County, because after all, I might not get this job. I will just put in my paper, so there is no need. Let me not apply. So when people are sensitized about the importance of putting this application, and the CEOs of such entities are also willing and ready to comply, as we've said, we will open up the frontiers for our people, our Kenyans, to feel the diversity and the comfort to work in other counties, not necessarily their home counties. And another thing, this report is very important. a good number of Kenyans did know these statistics until Commissioner and his team issued the report. I did not know that Bomet County is worst. It is at 97%. Other than, of course, the general statistics that you know, we don't have other tribes from around here to go home and talk about. But this report is so critical that it makes people appreciate, because we've talked about Marsabit today. We've talked about Bomet. So every other Kenyan now knows there is an illegality happening within the county government of Bomet in terms of compliance with the NCIC Act, the Constitution, the Employment Act, the International Labour Organization requirements, because if I'm qualified and you have got a requirement of a 30% quota, you will have failed to comply with the law if you don't give me that opportunity. So we need to make sure that such reports are regular and are also exposed to the public for them to know that it is available for me to be employed in the county government of Marsabit when I come from Kisumu. As a Kenyan, as a qualified professional, I'm entitled to apply for that job. And if there would be, if there would be a reward system, I mean, Governor Ali, you deserve a reward.
Thank you.
True. Very true. Because, yes, if there would be a reward system where you're being told you've done well, it is something that will enhance compliance. I mean, we are human beings, and naturally, there is something that will drive you to do something is a gain. I wouldn't call it then a gain to Governor Ali. He has enough. He doesn't need anything. Right. He needs a recognition for a job well done. That way, if we reward the one who's done the very well and we call out the worst performing, you know, you will naturally not want to be called out again in the next session of the report. If that happens, we will encourage people to comply. And lastly, one of the things I also feel that this will happen is that county governments, as a requirement of the law, are supposed to regularly update. Because I know this report is between the month of February and September, right, Commissioner? Yeah. The statistics were collected between February and September. There is continuous recruitment in a number of counties because the report still says that there is insufficient funding, so there are certain positions which are not filled. If counties, therefore, are committed to giving regular data to NCIC, if there is any new employment, get that data out so that we keep them on toes. We enlighten them to know that, you know, last month you were at 97% and compliant. If you have recruited another 20 people, it doesn't matter the kind of a job, although I would also encourage to make sure that we don't only concentrate on the low cadre. Let's run all the way to the executive level. If they do regular submission of data, then we will be monitoring their performance and their improvement. Because if we were at 15 in 2016 and we are now at 13, we are doing what the Commissioner said, 2 steps forward and 4 steps backwards. We are doing worst.
So we are sort of like negating.
We are negating actually the gains that we had achieved. And it's because of those deliberate decisions which county governments and the executives are doing without bothering the outcome.
Thank you, Wakili, for saying that. Now, Danvas, as I take the final round of remarks, he said something very interesting. Don't take the juicy part and share among yourselves, and then you leave the jobs that are not significant to share among the minority. Let that equality cut across that particular ladder. That's very significant. Danvas, your final remarks on this conversation.
My final remarks, I still believe that maybe I'm too optimistic that there's still hope for our country. Generally, that's why we do these reports. You know, today morning when you woke up, I can bet you went to the mirror and looked. You know, if you have, you know, things that you fix them. And this is a mirror of our country. This is where you begin there. Okay, how do we look? So you go there, how do I look? I need to brush my teeth, I got to wake up, I got to do this, you understand? So to me, it shows us that we're not in a good place. But if we've an example of a good governor, we can actually proceed and do what is right. Because then, as he said, peace and development comes to our country. I truly believe in the hope. I also believe that a time will come, maybe in the distant future, whereby my children, my grandchildren will never have to worry about the name as it relates to whether they get a job or not because they're Kenyans. And that's why we need to have these conversations, and I thank you and this organization for having this conversation, because you could have picked some other juicy, more into that, exactly the people. But we don't address the core, the challenges that really faces the country, because it's foundational. It might not be exciting or sexy, but it's very foundational in fixing and the changing direction, right? So we all need a coalition of everyone, a coalition of the willing. Okay, you playing a part. Even in the report, we've mentioned the media because you have a big role to play. Okay, beyond the Senate, the legal instruments that we have in our country, everybody needs to play to fix it. So I know we have hope, and I call the governors of non-compliant counties to, for example, go benchmark in Marsabit, okay, and other counties and the Lamus, the Tana Rivers that have shown as an example that what you can do. Ask them ask the good governor what he did, what was right. So it's called leading by example. So we have a set of examples which are good. Let's lead by example, and hopefully in the next report we'll have which much more compliant, and Kenyans now will be truly Kenyans regardless of what county they come from. They can apply, they can go and live and work in anywhere, because that is a country that our constitution envisions. It's a country that we deserve as Kenyans and our children.
Thank you, Danvas, for saying that. Governor, people indeed will be benchmarking. We have an unemployment burden in our country. A lot of young people now will be coming to Marsabit County, hoping that they'll stand a chance to get those employment opportunities. I hope the doors will be open. But your final remarks, that's on a light note.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank the Commission, NCIC, for doing a thorough job and bringing out this report. I also want to take this opportunity to congratulate my team, especially the County Public Service Board, to continue doing a great job, and also to ask the rest of Kenyans, be it at the county level, be it at the national level, let us embrace diversity and inclusivity. And the way the chairman here, the commissioner has said, most of these counties were left behind from time immemorial. They were disadvantaged immensely. You heard him say when he went to Moi, the legislator went to Moi, to Kibaki, it was being told, you are still building schools. This part of the country is still catching up. So my request to my colleagues in various parts of the country and the national government is also to practice affirmative action. A person who gets an A in Nairobi and a person who gets maybe C+ in Marsabit, in Wajir and Mandera, given equal opportunity, the one with the C+ might be better. So as we celebrate Marsabit for doing that, let us also encourage the rest of the country to practice affirmative action to give equal opportunity to people who are disadvantaged. And finally, let me take this opportunity again to invite all Kenyans and indeed everybody else to join us in celebrating diversity and our rich culture in Marsabit from 23rd of this month up to 25th at Loyangalani.
Okay.
I thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for opening the doors of Marsabit County for people. Thank you also. That was Mohamud Ali, the governor of Marsabit County. We were also having this sit down this morning with Dr. Danvas Makori, a commissioner at the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. In studio with us also was Hilary Sigei, who is the senator of Bomet County. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. And of course, that is how we wrap it up for the first conversation we had lined up for you right here on Daybreak. Remember, it is Tuesday. In a bit, we'll be shifting gears into our social hour. This morning, we are choosing to break the silence on the issue that has been bedeviling this particular country. HIV burden rising, the young people actually attributing for a larger percentage of the new infections. It is time for us to talk. It is a time for us to really be open and candid about what is killing our future generation. We will be having the panel that we usually have here on Tuesday in just a bit. Do stay for that. It's going to be interesting, I promise you. But for now, we take a very short break.